had a rod for monastic community or something. I'm like, oh my goodness, this house is tiny.
You know, as we're dating and struggling, I think it was Eric who, in a sermon, and he sometimes say things like this, told people in the church, like, if you're young and struggling, find an older couple and ask to meet with them regularly. Oh. And so I was like, hey.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Did you ask them?
Yeah, so I asked them if we could come over for dinner.
Oh.
And they said okay, and then, you know, we were hanging out afterwards and talking, not about anything in particular. I remember this pretty vividly. And Julie was like, so why are you here?
Yeah.
So we'll start with you, Tamaki, and just telling us your first impressions of the village.
Yeah, it's kind of same as, you know, every other people who've been to the Lutheran church part. Weird, you know? And I wasn't even believer then, I think, right? You took me and Jenny and Michael, and you took your roommates, and you guys took us, and then we were like, I mean, I don't know what Jenny thought. But at least Jenny found, she speaks German, so she found Tritia. So, but then to me, I'm like, this is so awkward and weird. I hope nobody's trying to sell me anything. They didn't, so I realized, okay, this is not a cult. But, and it let me, you know, go home too, so. But that was first time, right? And then you found me at church.
Right. You became a believer over the course of that year when we had
What
first
year was
met.
that?
2006, yeah.
Yeah. 2005, 2006. And so I started taking you to Catalina Foothills Church.
In the morning.
In the morning, yep. Which I know this is a village documentary, but shout out to Catalina Foothills. Good place. Yeah, so I would take you there in the morning, and then I'd come to the village in the evening.
Yeah. That was a lot for you.
It's great.
You almost kind of waited for me to become believer. Seems like.
You could say that, I guess.
So then we started dating, we had lots of problems, lots of problems.
Yeah.
And then you dumped me. I remember calling you, Eric, and you came to the pizza place, remember? And I was crying, and you're like, this is awkward. It looks like I'm like dumping my, you know, affair women. this is maybe how it looks like from outside. I'm like, I don't care. But then I left you for my study.
Yeah, so we started dating. We really liked each other, enjoyed each other, and began falling in love. But, you know, you were a new believer. We were both not great in having relationships, and so it was very tumultuous and unhealthy. And in the end, you know, I decided, together with you.
No, not together with me. I was begging.
If we don't continue the relationship, and then you left me for France for a year.
No, that's not how I remember. You told me it's either France or you, and I, with my, you know, like it was like arranged with my professor in my study, and then he already had somebody bailed in that, and then he already told me that before I applied for that, so I had to go.
So you chose France
because you dumped me. Yeah.
Yep. So then we spent that year apart. So she studied in France for a year, and I carried on in Tucson, and then you came back to Tucson. And that's when, in that time that you had been away, I decided I really did love you, and you were the one I wanted to be with. Knowing, though, that we were not great in a relationship. And so when you came back, I tried to restart the relationship when we started dating, and we pretty quickly found ourselves back in a pretty rough and tumultuous relationship. And that, I think, is really when, and you started coming to the village.
Was I?
When
Oh,
you
yeah,
came
yeah,
back
right.
from
Yeah,
France.
that's
Yeah.
true.
When was that? That was probably 2008
Getting married? You proposing me?
when we were dating before we got married, right? So we dated, I think, starting in 2008. That's when you got back from,
Yeah.
from
Well,
France.
technically December 28th of 2007.
Yeah. So I think you did start seeing Julie,
Yeah.
and so you had been counseling with her for a while. But then I know that when you started coming to the village, I forget why you decided to come, but you were very concerned that it was my church, and
Yes,
that you were just going to be my girlfriend, and not kind of your own person in the church.
I felt that way like for a long time. I kept saying, your church, your pastors. So, but yeah. But then like you too, Eric, you too, but like, everyone said like, even if you find somebody else, you're gonna probably have the same problem. So I'm like, okay, I guess you have to deal with this.
Supposed to have the problems with me.
Yeah, like for me, asking Keith to be my surrogate father was really important, and it was also kind of reckless, I guess, in a sense. Like when I asked him, he was like, "Whoa!" Kind of, I could tell, like, he didn't say "whoa," but he's like, "I have to ask Julie first." So I'm like, "Oh, right." So I was kind of like, I thought he was gonna say no, but I'm really glad, and it was really important for me because, like, no offense to Keith, but like, I could see Keith is not perfect and very emotional person, and I needed to know, like, even that you can have good relationship, like marital relationship, family relationship. So like seeing that like through village was really hopeful to me, that broken person can do. And also like, you are really my first real pastor, I would say. And oh my gosh, I fought with you a lot. I say mean things. And I'm like a few days later, I'm like, I'm sorry. But, so like, and then not in a bad way, but I guess I realized pastors are also human. They make mistakes too. And they're not perfect, but it's okay. And then, still like, so like, I guess through that, all these little things, but like kind of big things I realized like through village, like, yeah, like you don't have to be perfect to love people. You don't have to be perfect to be loved by people. And being able to claim that like was a very big change.
What's it like to have kids in the village? I think it's awesome. I'm really glad that the kids have a place like this to develop their understanding of who God is and what He's like, and that they can be anchored in basically the values of the village, right? So, yeah, and just that they also get to experience life with other believers in the church that are connected with Christ in like the same way that we are, right? So we're all kind of on this journey together, and a lot of the men in the village, like I have served with and been poured into myself, and so we kind of know our stories and the ways that we've all struggled together, and those are the men who are now pouring into my son. which is awesome because I know what they have to offer, and they're offering Christ in unique ways that I know I don't, and that my son is getting to experience being part of this community, and the same for Mewa, like the getting to experience the women who have journeyed with us and with you is really cool.
Yeah, I really like it's just to have exposure to different people, and but it's a safe place, like for them to like misbehave or not misbehave and praised or whatever, but like it's a safe place for them. And then I don't know, I feel comfortable like to even just correct other people's kids. Like, hey, that's not safe or whatever, and then I feel okay if other people correct my children too, just it's just we are doing in this village style. And I think they kind of can learn that somewhat, I don't know, more like a, what do you call, like a group responsibility, group respect. Yeah, so I kind of like that.